it has similar logos, menus, standardized ingredients, etc., with 5 or more stores. Therefore meets the code. Our typical practice with things like this, where there is a formula restaurant contained within an exempted retail business, for example, the Starbucks within the Albertsons, as long as there's no external signage, all the employees are the same people, they're all employed by the exempted business, we allow it. And so generally they just need to take all the signage down off of the exterior for Bonfire Grill. And you really can't tell from the outside that it contains a bonfire grill. The traffic study, applicants used an 88% bypass rate rather than the standard Institute of Traffic Engineers 76%. That's probably reasonable. They have not justified it terribly well, in my opinion. I'd like a little more detail on why that is a valid number and whether it backs up reality. The level of service on intersections is all averaged out based on turning movements rather than grading each individual turning movement. So left from Colorado to 3rd Street, right from 3rd Street to Colorado. Certain of those independent movements failed when they are not averaged out. It's a little hard to understand that from reading the TIS without really diving into the appendices. Their queuing analysis is dependent on a 2% large vehicle ratio. Based on their presentation information provided, they're really trying to reach a lot of snowmobile trailers, boats, motorhomes. That's really a lot of their market, and so I would expect more than 2% of the vehicles to be large vehicles. The hallway at the Colorado Street facade that is labeled as unoccupied space on site plans meets the letter of the code. It provides transparent windows along street frontages. It's a little funny. It's, like I said, meets the letter of the code. I do appreciate that it at least is beneficial for future reuse of the building. If a retail store or whatever wanted to go in, they would have window space available for store displays and things like that. But yeah, it's a little odd right now, especially since they do not seem to have any plans for decorating inside there. The landscaping plan includes primarily non-native suitable tree species, poplars adjacent to sidewalks that are most likely going to lift sidewalks because they have fairly shallow root systems. The fencing plan is a little confusing. They are proposing a concrete sound wall adjacent to the residential property, but then retain existing fence that currently does not exist other than the construction fence around the demo site for the remainder along residential or along the non-street facade sides. So they should complete slants or fencing plan. The sidewalks, their conditional approval narrative submitted with the application proposes to extend them to Stibnite as a remedy for conditional use permit standard number 2. If they are volunteering to do it, they should do it. Part of their application that they go ahead and construct it if they're going to construct it. If they're going to volunteer to continue the sidewalk all the way to Stibnite, they should go ahead and do that. We have issued an administrative approval for the facade and landscape improvements at the Rustic Inn. That their site plan does show sidewalks with an access point on their property.
So that was included in their application, is what you're saying? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you for your presentation.
Our general preference on arterial routes is to have as few access points as we can between street blocks, street intersections. So we obviously prefer a shared access point between this property and the property to the south, the rest again. ITD is ultimately the issuer of approach permits on 3rd Street, Highway 55. So we encourage shared access. We're not necessarily going to require it. The trash enclosure, we don't have any elevations for it. Faces the dumpster opening side faces 3rd Street. We prefer it to be screened a little bit, maybe reoriented so it's less prominent on the site. The lighting is too bright for our standards, even in the dim setting. The average well above the 1.5 foot candle maximum. Signage is a little unclear. Their sign plan is slightly different from their building elevations as far as what is proposed. The building the sign plan maxes out at exactly 100 square feet, which is the maximum allowed per code. It does not include the window decal signs on fuel pumps themselves, advertising burritos and whatever. And so I think it just needs a little more refinement on that end. Driveways are 36 feet in width. Their maximum in commercial zone is 30 feet. So they need to be reduced. They also, the throat of the driveway where the curb radii extend, the sidewalk extends past the property line. Discourage. Then doors facing 3rd Street. It's not necessarily required by code, but they are pretty industrial, beige, steel, unarticulated, flat panel doors that are not the most attractive. I prefer a more architectural door with some panels or windows or something. Lighting does not have the specifications as far as height or style, other than the light itself. And they do not show any styles proposed for bike racks. They show those that were on site. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to get through on this one. Like I said, I think take input, get feedback back. Proceed from there. If you guys go to approve it tonight, I have a condition of approval to include in the application. Or to recommend approval, I should say. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Quick question on the hotel next door. So what has been approved there administratively requires a sidewalk?
So we, as a proportionality measure, we can't really require sidewalks on facade improvements and pretty minor changes, things like that. We encourage the applicant to plan for sidewalks.
Okay.
And so they showed that on site plan and have shown it on the site.
Okay, so nothing obviously was required then, so there's no, okay.
The rest again, that's the new.
There's any other questions for Brian before we go to Morgan's report? All right, Morgan?
I'll come up
Yeah.
here for a second. Hello. So I have quite a lengthy letter for this applicant and this application. I tried to, me and Nathan's on the phone also, the Public Works Director, if I need any help or if you have any other questions that I can't answer. So in my letter, I tried to identify the items that we still need to be addressed before we can make a recommendation on if what is being proposed will meet our standards or state standards. So there's 5 main things that we need to see before that can happen from us. The first item is We need to really nail down the transportation impact study, and there's still a few errors and items that we're working through with the applicant. And one of the items that Brian mentioned was that there's a failing turning movement. We're also working with our consultants, Horrocks engineers, to help us evaluate the transportation impact study. So they're kind of our experts in helping us through this. The second item is that we needed updated Colorado street improvements to address the mitigation measures required in the transportation impact study. We're not sure what that looks like yet because there weren't any mitigation measures proposed since it was in the appendix and they averaged out all the movements at the intersection. So it wasn't one of the items in the report currently. The third item is we just wanted updated turning movements because the current utilizes, I think, a WV 67, which a motorhome boat configuration is more restrictive and will help us identify what improvements that are existing currently need to be modified or if their approaches need to be modified to accommodate those vehicles. Number 4, Brian touched on this, continuation of the streetscape and the center turn lane improvements from the southern property line of Stibnite Street on State Highway 55. It sounds like there's some design concerns about grading, but those are things that we can work through this process if those are issues. And then number 5, we need a storm sewer main plan along Stibnite to verify that it can be constructed for positive drainage without major conflicts with existing utilities within Stibnite Street. So those are our major 5 items that we need to see addressed before we can feel comfortable saying this will meet our codes and standards. Well, this project will meet our code and standards. I can go farther into the details if you would like. It's all listed in our letter. But those are our 5 major concerns. Would you like me to go farther into detail?
I don't think we need to go too much detail. There's a lot of items, obviously, that need to be worked with the applicant as well. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. Anybody have any questions or other requests for Morgan?
I just want to clarify that these are items that you need to understand just in order to be able to say, yes, this project can meet our requirements.
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions?
I got a quick question. So I see on the plans a left turning lane on Colorado going, I guess, east. That's not currently there, correct?
On like on the east side.
It'd be on the north side of the property.
Yeah, that is currently not there. But the traffic impact study shows it failing.
Okay.
With the proposed traffic, which that's a whole nother discussion on, is a failing left turn movement acceptable? Because left turns are hard to make anyways in the summer in town. So it's all part of that discussion that we haven't had yet.
But that would clearly need to be constructed. And is there even room there to do that?
From what they're showing on their plans, there is room. We're not sure exactly how the sidewalk north will show. So we tried to get plans that showed what a sidewalk and a full section would look like in the existing right of way. And it looks like there's a pinch point just north where all the hydrants and the water meters are currently. So it might need to shift down to accommodate an ADA compliant sidewalk, but we'll have to
Work through it.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, I think we go to the public hearing. We're gonna do this in a couple phases. So I think without explaining the second phase, we're just gonna go to the people online first. online with the phone numbers. So I'm going to read down the list of phone numbers. When I read your number, if you want to comment during or on this application, you'll have 3 minutes. Also, if you hear a discussion or other comments that are exactly or very close to what you're going to say, please don't repeat it. We got a lot of people, a lot of comments going to happen. So you can say you agree with the previous comments. We just don't, hopefully avoid repetitive comments of the same thing over and over. And so again, need your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. I'll have the alarm to go off. When that goes off, please wrap up your discussion or your comments. So, and if you're again online or on the computer, you may need to unmute yourself. It'll be *6. So, and again, I will go down the list here. Then after that, we'll move to people in the current audience, and then we'll switch those out, probably sort of one at a time, or however we do that for the overflow over at the transit center. So we will start first with phone number 208-315-7677.
Currently on and
315-7677, you are muted. You might need to hit *6 if you want to comment. Hello,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes. Or we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Kay Snodgrass. I live at 205 Colorado Street. One of my big concerns is that First Street and Colorado Street have become kind of a bypass from town for many people. We've seen an increase in traffic for that. We are getting a lot of truck traffic, delivery truck traffic. And of course, we fear that a Maverick's going to add to that. I think I talked to Nathan at one time about maybe making it a one-way street. And he was concerned and said that never did really work very well. There's also, we count 7 school buses going up this street in the morning. And it's also a designated bike trail. We have a lot of young families walking with their little ones up this street to go to the park, the skate park or the bike park, or the bike trail, the walking trail. Those are probably my main concerns. It just sounds like there's just going to be too much congestion at that Colorado exit. We have some great new businesses in the area. The architect business has done a lot to really make their, business appeal, street appeal. The new restaurant that has come into the area is 634. They have a lot of outside guests in the summer, and the one across the Growler, they have a lot of outside guests. Having a lot of congestion, a lot of cars, a lot of movement is just not going to add much to their business, that's for sure. So I think that's probably it. Those are some, I have a lot more concerns, but those are some of my main ones.
All right, thank you. Okay. All right, now we'll go to number 315-3019.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Larry Swan. I live at 421 Colorado Street. That is east of the proposed project towards Sampson Trail on Colorado Street. My concerns, one is the current location of Maverick in their traffic study doesn't have a street across from them. It's a business, so the traffic at the intersection of the two Colorados, East and West and 3rd Street, will increase. It's already getting jammed up. My other concern is, so I think the traffic study does not take that in mind. And to the city, as far as planners looking at this project, please don't look at this as a snapshot as it's just Maverick relocating, increasing the motorhome and traffic business with the increased store. We also have more development going on that will be going on, already approved 15 duplexes on Colorado Street behind 3rd Street Motel that will add, when that project is completed, will add a significant amount more cars and trucks or whatever utilizing that intersection. And for the life of me, I cannot believe that West Colorado Street, between the proposed Maverick location and 634 and Epicos and Brandy Solis's business, that you can put sidewalks in there and even consider a turning lane with the width of that street, without it so negatively impacting existing local businesses. I think that really needs to be studied and considered strongly, that the relocation of Maverick will be detrimentally affecting these businesses, as well as the existing intersection with Growlers, the motel, and the residences of East Colorado Street. The other point I'd like to make is, you talk about the sidewalk situation. It's in my understanding, as being a very, very long-term resident of this community, that the continuation of sidewalks, hopefully clear to Dinehart, if nothing else, from a safety and friendliness of our community to the growth and development, that it's kind of, am I hearing that it's kind of considered maybe optional if somebody wants to do it or not? The city, working with any change in a business, upgrading, updating, whether it's Nordic Inn, as soon as somebody provides an opportunity, and city ought to be funding their share and continuing to get these sidewalks in, it's unsafe for pedestrians. And so Colorado Street right now is an unsafe area during the summer business, increased business time with trucks, trailers, RVs. And I know Colorado right now is a bypass because of the Park Street project. I realize the street will quiet down a little bit when that project's done. But so that's my concern, and right now is the traffic and the impact to the intersection.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Okay, we'll go to 315-5934. You may need to unmute yourself and hit *6. Three 315-5934. Do you want to speak? Okay. We're going to go to 514-2713. You're also muted. You need to hit *6 if you want to speak. 514-2713. Okay. Go to 553-5182. They've left. Okay. Moving right along. 634-6718.
Also left.
All right. Going to 801-381-6634. Okay. And going to the next number, 818-398-6634. 2868. That one's left too. It's gonna get quicker than I thought. All right, next number, 920-540-3175. You need to hit *6 if you want to speak. Again, 920.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Hello?
yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Emily Bettine, 13667 Farm to Market. And I am an employee at Epicos Design at 303 Colorado, which is right across the street from the proposed applicant. Just want to comment that the applicant's CUP really does not meet all 12 requirements. It is not conforming with this neighborhood at all. And I'd really like to ask the staff and engineering for a little more clarification on the traffic report and how the turning movements are failing. Can you explain what that means for both the site design and the surrounding streets? I know there's a lot of technical stuff in there, and I know you said you're working through it with them, but if you could explain to all of us a little bit better what that means and what the possible outcomes might be, whether this is possible and approvable, that would be helpful to me and I think others. So yeah, just want to comment that I am opposed to this use in this location, and that's all. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we'll have answers to hopefully the questions as much as we can after all the public comment, just so you know. Okay, moving to 630-3668. Are you
Do I
there?
do *6? Do I, yes,
Or is this 630-3668?
yes, *6.
Okay, we can hear you now. No, don't push anything right now. You're good. Oh, they did it?
Press it again.
You need to do *6 again. You actually muted yourself. So to turn yourself off, please hit stars, or turn yourself on, hit *6. They're 630-3668.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Dave Pugh, and I am co-owner of Epicos Planning and Architecture, and we are located at 303 Colorado Street, which is directly across from the proposed Maverick. In the 45 years that I've been doing this, never has a gas station been encouraged to be located in the town core. There are always more appropriately located on the edges of town. The traffic study spends very little time evaluating the impacts on Colorado Street to the west. Larry also already mentioned the impacts on Colorado Street to the east, so I won't go into that. But not only on Colorado Street to the west, but on to First Street all the way down to Lake Street. The proposed main exit flow for large RVs and trailers is to be onto Colorado Street and very close to the intersection. I believe it was Kate earlier that said it is already being used as a bypass, not only for the construction that's going on, but to try to get around the traffic that we have downtown, which is only getting worse. When someone comes out of the Maverick and they can't get out onto 3rd Street, they're going to turn left. I don't care what the traffic study says. They will turn left and they'll head up the hill to the west end of Colorado Street. Even if they are a tourist, they will come out to get onto Colorado Street. They're going to look to the right. They're going to see that cars are backed up. They're going to turn left. The west end of Colorado Street is the south end of First Street, and it's a blind 90-degree turn on the hill. This is a very dangerous, very narrow section of road, and First Street is the narrowest right-of-way in town and well below city standard. Further to the north on First Street, there is another very dangerous section of road up a blind hill and curve. Between these two problem areas, the road passes the school's bike, pump track, skate park, as well as the senior citizen center. It's loaded with kids after school and during summer months. This is completely unworkable. And this is only one of about 15 concerns that I have. I am beyond outraged that this is even being considered because it is so egregiously against the comp plan. And I urge you to deny this proposal. There are already proposals on the table where there is a piece of ground south of the airport where
You can finish up, Dave. That'd be
south
fine.
of the airport, and there is a proposal on the table to do a swap where it would give the Maverick much more land down there. It would comply with everything. And so I urge you to don't jump at this, but take a hard look at the proposal that is on the table. And that's about all I have to say right now. Otherwise, I will go ballistic and just keep on going, and you're going to have to shut me up.
All right.
Thank
Yep,
you.
your time is up, Dave. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to 630-4454. You may need to unmute yourself, *6, or 630-4454 if you'd like to speak. Oh, here you are.
Hello. Am I on?
Yep, you're on. You can state your name and address and
Okay.
you got your time.
Thank you. My name is Ed Elliott, 1840 Warren Wagon Road. I've lived in McCall for over 50 years as a full-time resident, and I agree totally with Dave Pugh and Larry Swan and many of the others. I'm outraged at this proposal. I've served on a variety of committees over the years. The Payette Lakes Water and Sewer District Board, I was one of the directors. I've been on a Planning and Zoning Commission. And always, regardless of what the committee was intended to do or to discuss, there was concern about maintaining the charm and the small town character of McCall. Never did I hear anyone suggest that adding a gas station or enlarging a gas station would improve the character and the charm of McCall. And then there's the big picture. The big picture, if people are paying attention, is we're faced with the most serious global crisis in history caused by burning fossil fuels. What is being discussed is building a monument to a dying industry, and the sooner that industry is eliminated, the better off we will all be. If approved, our retail area will be dominated by gas stations, very charming, I might add, and we will be perpetuating and accommodating burning of fossil fuel. We should all be adamantly opposed to any reconstruction, remodel, rebuild, relocation of the Maverick. And the last thing I need to point out, this is not a local business. Looking up on the internet, FJ Management is located in Salt Lake City. And if the internet is to be believed, Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway will own 80% of FJ Management by 2023. They don't care about McCall. They've never been to McCall. And if their bottom line would be improved by paving Payette Lake, they'd be all for it. do not approve this Maverick reconstruction, remodel, relocation, whatever it's called. Thank you.
All right. Hey, we'll go to 360-713-3294. They're gone? All right. We'll go to 408-307-3314. They're gone too. Okay. And okay, we'll go to 630-4113. They're gone. All right, go to 954-4456. They're gone too. Is there anybody else that's on the phone that would like to speak regarding this application? Again, you may need to hit *6, but if there's anybody on the phone that would like to speak. Okay. I've got a list here of a couple people that are online. Either Jack or Patience Thorenson, are you there with us? May need to hit *6 as well. Jack or Patience Thorenson? How about Chad Jones? Oh, he's on the next one? Oh, that's the next application. Okay, hold on for that.
And then we also have John Sanchez recently joined us.
John Sanchez, are you there? Would you like to speak on this application?
No comment. Thank you at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Rachel, how many people do you have over at the overflow? Can she hear us? Or
I don't have anyone over here that's waiting to comment.
okay, great. Makes it easier. All right, we'll go down the list they have here. I believe these are all for this one. Susan Gooding?
Yes.
Would you like to speak, please?
I'd like to introduce myself. I am Susan Gooding from McCall, Idaho. I've been here for 11 years, been in Idaho my life. I am the great-great-granddaughter of the Knox family that pioneered their ways into Idaho to service the Chinese above Stibnite.
What's your address, please?
And my address is 325 Valley Springs Road, apartment C106, McCall, Idaho. And I'm not, I can say my heritage is for the development of the people. And supporting the people is where I come from. My great-grandfather homesteaded and was a pioneer of Idaho. And that was a legacy that we have in Valley. I was raised and born in the Caldwell apartment area. My concern here is that maybe we're not looking at this objectively enough. I think that we need to go back to looking at the cleanup of the current Maverick store. I would like to share with you that as of May 4th, 2022, excuse me, the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, defines a brownfield as a property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which might be complicated by the presence of potential presence of hazardous substances, pollutants, or contaminants. It says nothing about that the cleanup site has to be vacant. My concern is the contamination of the soils and of the tanks and the removal and the cleanup process of that, so that the site can be utilized for generations to come without toxic chemicals or problems with people's health. Also, brownfields are defined as a former industrial or commercial site where future use is affected by real or perceived environmental contamination. It looks that when I look at the proposal, I see no green spaces down the corridor to the lake. At the lake site, we have parks, but we don't have parks in the corridor coming into town. I look at the new site as being too small for the needs of Maverick now and in the future. We need to look at the fact that we may have a bypass of Highway 55 on Dinehard going over to Highway 55 on Boydstrom Street. With that in mind, the current proposal for the relocation of the Maverick stores and pumps, excuse me, I lost my thought there, does not show enough space for more than one semi or pickup with the trailer on it. I think also that there's no comment on the fact that we are in an era of change from fossil fuels to electric powered vehicles.
You can just finish up if you could.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the Maverick does not have any site, with the new site, has no implementation of charging stations for people with electric cars. I would like to propose, and this is what I have written.
Oh, man, we can't really go much farther.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you got something just in a couple seconds, that's fine, but
Okay, is Park Box for the location of the cleanup site where the Maverick store is now, and then also a pocket park at the new relocation, because it would welcome people into the area and it would also help improve our environment and human health.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
hey, Joey Petrie.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Joey Petrie. I live at 225 Valley Springs Road. I'd like to thank Ed Elliott and Larry Swan and Dave Pugh for their comments, and this young lady who just spoke so eloquently about her past and her family and that hazardous waste site there. You know, I think it's a totally inappropriate place. As everybody spoke about the traffic. Traffic is really bad. I had where Dave Pugh talked about on Colorado and First Street. I had a head-on collision because I was headed south and there was a vehicle coming north and it was a snowy, icy day and I couldn't get far enough to the right and the vehicle just kept sliding and it slid right into me at that point there. And I agree that people are going to be using that as a bypass itself. And if we are going to have a location for the Maverick, and I'm not in favor of any Mavericks or any corporate conglomerates coming into McCall at all, but if they're going to have a location, I don't even think it should be south of town. It would impact the traffic there. If there's going to be a place, I think Boydston and 55 is the proper place for it if you're going to have one at all. Because these people on Colorado Street, they don't need it. It's a nice little community, and I'd like to see that remain intact. With that, I'll end, and thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, David Philippi? Philippi.
Thank you. David Gallipoli, 200 Scott Street. I oppose the Maverick application and hope you deny this application based on your conditional use permit standards. The application does not have the support of the community or adjacent neighbors. And I have 7 reasons why you need to deny this application. Number 1, there's already a Maverick in town. Number 2, the zoning board has no legal obligation to approve a conditional use permit for Maverick. 3, this proposal will not be harmonious or appropriate in appearance with the neighborhood's existing character. Maverick will be a 24/7 operation and disruptive to the community and the neighborhood. Number 4, Maverick will be ugly, and ugly is forever, and it provides no scenic value or character to our scenic byway. 5, Maverick application conflicts with our city and even our county comprehensive plan. 6, Maverick will create additional traffic, noise, and light pollution. 7, the proposed Maverick complex is too large for the lot. The role of planning and zoning is to ensure balance for our community, and the approval of this application would violate the balance of the neighborhood and does not meet zoning requirements or your 12-point criteria for approval. So please deny the application. Don't postpone it. Thank you.
All right, we have Matt and Jennifer Hurlbut. You guys want to speak as one, or you both want to speak?
I'll just speak. I'm Matt Hurlbut. My wife Jennifer and son Billy live at 300 Colorado Street. We've been there for about 13 years now, and we've owned the building for almost 17. We adamantly oppose this project. I could talk a long time about why. We wrote a letter, even if everybody read it. This juncture, I'm just going to yield my time to our attorney. Thank you.
Amy, well, let's see. Amy's going to speak at the end, right? So we'll hold up on that. Mike Myers?
Mike Myers, 1035 Valley Rim Road. I would like to speak in favor of the project. The Maverick project is going to do a couple things for the town that are desperately needed. One is it's going to, we have an approved project on Colorado Street to build 30 condo, 3-bedroom condo units with attached garages. But one of our big hurdles on that project is trying to keep the rents down to a reasonable level. And for us to do that project, we have to repair sewer line from Colorado down to KB's Burrito. That sewer line has 5 major defects in it right now. These defects are rated by the PACP, where they video the line. So it has 5 issues right now where the line is broken and sewage is leaking out, or this line is offset, or sidelines are broken. It's a mess down there. And the sewer district by law is supposed to be fixing these immediately, but they're so overwhelmed with what needs to be done in this city that they are not going to do it. But if Maverick goes in, we're going to be able to do our project. We're going to partner with them on the sewer fixes and get that sewer system fixed so we don't have sewage leaking into the ground. So I'm all for the Maverick project and getting it forward and getting some of the city infrastructure fixed. Thank you.
All right, Lynn Lewinsky?
Hello there, Lynn Lewinsky, 713 Broken Rain, McCall. And as you probably have gone through your packet, you may realize I've been writing about this since it started maybe 3-4 years ago. And at that time, the city council was going through the scenic byway changes and resolutions ordinances, and they were taking out new service stations to be on the scenic byway. Had that gone through, we wouldn't be here today. And I just want you to remember that little mistake is costing us a lot of time. I want to agree with everyone who's spoken against this project because it's fairly abhorrent to think that we're trying to develop and keep neighborhoods and a community that works together, and yet we're willing to sacrifice those very important aspects of what keeps us a community for the greed of a large corporation. To the point of the pollution, I have written about this fairly extensively. The fumes of the gas will, from the pumps themselves and the exhaust, will affect the 3 restaurants that have just successfully started and made their way through COVID. There's just so many aspects of this that are wrong. I ask you to deny this. This will be the 3rd move that Maverick has made in our town. We've had 16 gas stations over the course of my time living here, which is going on 40 some years. It's just not the right thing to do. And I think that we should empower ourselves to say no when that's the case. Thank you.
All right, I think that's Brandy Solis.
Randy Solis, 301 Colorado Street. I have Solis Natural Medicine out of that building, and also full and part-time runners in that building. And I oppose this project. I do not feel in any way it meets the 12 points of a conditional use permit. So I am also surprised that we've gotten this far in the process. When asked about if it's harmonious in the environment, Maverick talks about upgrading a sewer line and increasing drainage, and doesn't talk about putting a 24/7 location open, many hours coming and going, odd hours of the night, lit like a spaceship that looks like a 5,000 square foot boxy warehouse, all for 200 extra square feet of retail. We don't need this eyesore on our scenic bypass through town. This eyesore for bigger restrooms and more walk-in freezer space. This is detrimental to the health and safety. When you look at the example that Maverick gave of where their existing traffic spills out to the west, it's a completely different street than the sharp corner at First Street. And if you've ever been on that street in the winter, Joey Petrie talked about an accident going on to 55. If you've ever been on the First Street corner in the winter, the snowbanks limit it to a one-way street. And this is on a blind corner with a steep hill. That is a route for kids to get to school. So I have a lot of concerns. I mean, the lighting, that they don't even have a store that has standards that McCall has for lighting should tell us something. I mean, it's not about burrito stickers on the gas pumps. Like, this is a bigger deal. This is putting an eyesore in the heart of McCall for, I mean, forever, maybe forever. So please consider all requirements carefully. Thank you.
All right, John Thompson.
Howdy, my name's John Thompson. I live at 227 Morgan Drive. I am opposed to this for many different reasons. One, first and foremost, if any of you, which all of you, or some of you that I see in the audience and sitting on the board here, live in town and travel through town, maybe on a bicycle, or maybe have kids that are cruising around town. It's really not safe downtown with the Maverick there or without it there. The planning that you guys need to be doing is making sure that the people that live here, the people that visit here are safe in the downtown corridor. We've built this really nice bypass over here several years ago. It gets used, but not nearly enough. We need to focus on getting stuff out of the downtown that's going to bring more traffic. 40-foot snowmobile trailers in winter when there's compact snow and ice everywhere. It's not a good idea. You're setting yourself up for a huge failure. I appreciate Maverick trying to do something in the downtown. I understand there are monetary gains that they could have from this, but really it's up to you guys. You folks need to really take a hard look at what this is going to do to our downtown. Not only that, our downtown is very few retail places, mainly real estate offices and empty buildings. What's up with that? You need to get this straightened out. We need to make this a downtown that's nice, that people want to come to and check out. Do what the Carries are doing. They're making it a place where people really enjoy it. You know, they changed Foresters from being a dump to actually something that's nice to go to. There's so many opportunities here and we're passing them up. So please don't do this. This is a bad idea. They can build their damn store somewhere else, okay? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Jared Hopkins.
My name is Jared Hopkins. I represent Audrey Hopkins and my daughter, 10-year-old daughter, Alice Hopkins. We live at 202 Stibnite Street, which is just out of where Maverick needs to reach out for their community input, literally 10, 20 feet away from that. We hear about the safety and everybody's certainly concerned. We understand that growth is going to happen. It's your job and our town's job to manage that. And I think that's the biggest task. My biggest concern is safety. Living on Stibnite, I have the Little Sprouts daycare. I have the high school in close proximity, skate park, obviously the senior center. We have the church that has youth groups and camps that are going on all the time. We don't have the surfaces to take care of them now. On Stibnite Street, there's no sidewalks, there's no lighting, and it's a dangerous spot. If we allow Maverick to push their traffic out onto 3rd Street, they're gonna take that right. We are a no left-hand turn when the season is happening. They're gonna go right and they're going down Stibnite Street, which has no signage, no speed bumps. Our safety corridor as far as our surfaces is already stressed. And already we're pushing more people down there. It is a straightaway. I live on it day and night and it's 50 miles per hour to some people. And we're not just talking about tourists, we're talking about locals that do it, right? And so we need to understand that our safety is by far the biggest and largest concern that we have. Second is, can we handle that type of traffic moving deeper into our neighborhoods? Do we want them there? Do we want them driving by our schools and our 3-year-old kids walking along to get to the park so that we have some place safe for them? So unfortunately, I'd love my 10-year-old to get up here. She speaks the very much same thing. She sees these things happening to us, but unfortunately it just got to be a long meeting. So I oppose the Maverick and being built in our area. Thank you.
All right, not sure if they're here. Terry Lewis. I don't know if these were over. Rachel, do you have anybody over there? I think these next 4 may have been with you. We got Terry Lewis, Lisa Beck, Tabitha Martineau, and Cosette Martineau. Lewis. Who's here?
So, yeah,
Lisa?
the 3 of them had to leave. They had a family obligation. They asked if we could yield any time of theirs to Lisa.
Okay.
That we should. Yeah, but I think Lisa's over there.
Yeah, okay. Lisa, if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
Don't know if we can necessarily give you their time, but we'll give you a little bit extra. Oh, we'll give you a little extra time.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Beck. I am at 303 Colorado Street, representing Epicos. I've heard from a few of my co-owners. We also have been hired by Colorado Street Coalition also. So that's partly why you've heard so much from us. You guys will be evaluating this application based on the CUP requirements. And so there's a number of things that we'll go through. And if possible, Meredith, can you pull up the commentary for the CUP It's in the 700, or Brian, it's kind of near the 700 page. So you have an outrageous packet for this meeting. It's outrageous. And so there's a lot to go through. If this does get continued, if your minds are not made up, please use this extra time to read your packet very thoroughly, aside from the verbal comments that you're getting here. That will be one of the biggest tools that you'll be able to look at, because there's just not enough time to go through what all of these 12 requirements here. So what it takes is they have to pass all 12 in order to be able to pass the conditional use. So I'm not going to go into every single bit of it, but at the end of this portion, you don't have to go there, but this portion of the packet is maybe like 37 pages long that talk about a lot of reports that go through all 12 of them. But toward the end of it, there is a cheat sheet for you to easily see like the reasons why it doesn't correspond with all of these pieces. It's something where it was just like a Cliff Notes version of going through the requirements of that. All in all, I think it's interesting when Rich was presenting this, when the applicant was presenting this and saying that there's not going to be a difference between the existing Maverick and this Maverick, and that it's a really good experiment. We have a live experiment going on right down the street, and okay, so let's take that. So if there's no difference, then we can probably put the police calls that were called to the existing Maverick and put that right into the neighborhood at Colorado Street. So we looked at it, and through the public records request, so this is your Cliff Notes version here. There's been 185 incidences that have occurred at the Maverick station in the past 5 years. And so now we can put that right into the heart of that neighborhood on Colorado Street along the school corridors, and put a 24/7 alcohol selling venue right there. It's inappropriate to be able to have that not reflect on the existing fabric of the community that's there. Well, so it's also talking about the goal number 1 of the formula business. It's not the exact same Maverick. They are increasing it in all cases. There's a commercial court. There's in earlier applications, because this application has been going on a number of iterations, in the commercial court, there's an RV dump that was called out on the graphic representation of it. We asked pointedly at the neighborhood meeting, tell us about this RV dump. Has it gone away or not? It's graphically still represented there. It's just not called out. It's just generally called a RV. It's just called a commercial court. And so please, we as neighbors are very curious about having sewage right next to a residential property line there. We all know that those fill. So I do agree, and please read your packets about the issues with the EPA. And there's a whole bunch in if you can go back a few pages here. There's some sections in here that have some nice graphics to keep it really easy to read for you guys. Can we start at maybe number 1? I'll go through this fairly quickly. There's a lot of stuff that they're putting onto this site. Yes, it's a bigger site, but they're putting so much on it. So they have overlapping, thank you. They have overlapping snow storage on top of their inlets for their stormwater collection systems. They have very, very small swales to be able to collect some of this. So during the melt, how is that going to work? There again, we really would love for you to read into this, the report that you wrote with the letter with you and Nathan to talk about the traffic and turning movements in there, to go more in depth into that so everyone can hear. Parking. So yeah, they're really generous on parking. They only need 13, but they added 17 more parking spaces that are required, but they're short on their landscaping requirements. They're barely making their snow storage requirements on here. So look at how much they're putting in here, yet they can't get the turning movements to even work. It's too much to put in on this site. Higher intensity, a restaurant above and beyond, more parking than the original, than the Maverick that we're at. It's catering to RVs and boats compared to what the other one is now, on a site that's still not big enough for all this intense use here. So formula business number one, it's really easy to talk about this. So it's not something that is allowed in our code right now. Okay, number two, and I'll go really quickly through this. Whole bunch of codes in here outlined for you guys on the, thank you. Whole bunch of goals and codes where it's direct language out of the comp plan and transportation plan in here. Thank you. Ooh. Love it. Okay, so it's like 13, it doesn't go with like 13 codes. You'll start seeing this in here. There are locations where it's called out for an ideal location for a gas station in the Lardo plan. Okay, so here, is it appropriate within the neighborhood? Here it is all about alcohol sales and crime for neighborhoods. Look what town got the Ugly Award 2 years running, happens to be Emmett, Idaho, and right at the gateway of it happens to be a Maverick right here. So not be detrimental to our health. So this is where it overlaps with some of our requirements for safety with the underground storage tanks, which Rich talked about a little bit. So these are, please read this portion of your packet in here and talk about the safety requirements that other states have to be able to help control some of the leakage and fumes. But this one right here is where the underground storage tanks are in McCall. So this is a study that we did talking about where they are currently. Maverick has already moved twice. Here's a list of all of those underground storage tanks, and look how many are leaking. So this is through the EPA, and this how many are already leaking, and Maverick already has one that is still open with DEQ. So talking about the cleanup and being good neighbors, and do we want more of this? Yes, we have already had 16 locations of gas stations in our downtown core. Now we have a location where we're adding one more. Please read about the bioinfiltration systems that they're talking about, trying to clean some of these hazardous areas up. They're only 85% effective through that. These are the lists of all of the calls in here, the 185 lists from grand theft. A huge, terrible calls that are going on through here. Violent crimes that we're going to be adding into this. Okay. No, noise, smoke, fumes, glare. So that's the other piece where the lighting on there, talking about the lighting being able to dim at certain levels. So we go through every application with a fine-tooth comb. And so looking at like exactly what their photometric study is. And their photometric study doesn't call out the right specification to allow these lights to dim. What they called out, it doesn't even dim to the quantities that they are claiming. So if they say that they're claiming to dim to 50%, they can only dim to 30% of that. So this is questioning the traffic study in here. This is talking about the turn radiuses and where they're failing and going into oncoming traffic and parked cars. I mean, it's a mess of an application. Lots of cleanup in here. So then finally, this is talking about the economic impact area too. So this is part of the urban renewal district too. So as we look at the McCall's urban renewal district, the new area that is the downtown core, this is the Maverick. And so we need our local businesses to be able to be improvements, to be able to be that economic generator for this and not be something that's taking away from the values within our district. So Amy will, or our attorney will be able to go much further into these, and I won't take up much more time. Thank you for your generosity with this too. So anyway, this application fails on on so many points. Please read those packets.
All right, thank you. All right, I think the last is Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think.
Chairman Lyons, Commissioners, good evening. Amy Holm, 706 North First Street. I'm with Millman, Pemberton, and Holm. Our law office is representing a group called the Colorado Street Coalition. They consist officially of 10 individuals. In your packet, starting at page 662, is our 12-page letter our law firm put together with some exhibits. So the group of 10 folks that we're representing includes a lot of folks who have spoken tonight. The Epicos Design, their Colorado Commons, the Hurlbutts, Matt and Jennifer Hurlbutt, Alyssa and Jordan Acazino, Katie Welburn, who is commonly known as Cafe 634, Dr. Brandy Solis, Kyle Insler of Madden Homes LLC. That's the current owner of the Nordic Inn and Scandia Inn, which that's been talked about tonight, and I will address it because I don't believe anyone else has. Meg Henderson of the Number K, that's a leaseholder on Colorado. Kristen Amarante, who is on Colorado Street, North Fork Roasters, and Kay Snodgrass, who spoke earlier. And the final is Debbie Walgren, who's the owner of Miners Grab and Go. That's kind of the official Colorado Street Coalition, but I think it's really important to note that there's been a really valiant effort of an online campaign, which included 750 signatures. We sent those 750 signatures to you in an Excel spreadsheet, and then also there were comments from that group. So I'd like you to look at those comments too. Also in your packet was some 100 emails or letters written in on behalf of folks. I did read them mostly all today. They seem to be 99 in opposition, and there might have been one email that was in favor. And then we did hear one public comment tonight of a gentleman who was in favor. Overwhelming opposition is my point behind this summary. I think as a community, we see, my law firm represents lots of applicants on different sides of issues, but this is a really amazing point of just overwhelming collaboration, hard work, organized opposition. And I think that's really noteworthy, and I would really compliment the opposition group. I'm going to try to summarize. I know Chairman Lyons, if I can have a few more than 3 minutes, but I don't want to take a lot because I think that folks have really done a nice job of providing the reasons why this application doesn't make sense, why you should deny design review and scenic route, and that you should recommend denial to the City Council on the CUP. The zone of this is CC, that's community commercial. Importantly, I don't think anyone has mentioned that it does actually abut residential. The Hurlbutts live next door. Their property is zone CC, but to the south of this property is a residential zone. It's an R8 zone. It's currently vacant property, but it's important to note that it abuts residential. There's a lot of discussion in the packet from Mr. Parker in conditions of approval or in comments about sharing access with the property to the south, the Nordic Inn. There's been no approval of that. That is a theory that maybe sounds good, but that is not something that is really before you. So there is no plan for that. Whether or not there will be a sidewalk on the Nordic Inn property, I don't know. I'm not able to speak to that, but this is one of those situations in your planning where we could have a sidewalk that goes nowhere. And oftentimes that really doesn't make sense for our community. This also is on the scenic route. I don't think I heard anybody talk about that. So you're considering a heightened standard where this property is on the scenic route. A couple of things, I wanted to give you a little bit of legal framework, and your attorney may chime in on some of that in a moment, but as a zoning authority for our city, your findings and conclusions need to be supported by substantial and competent evidence. You need to look at every CUP standard 1 through 12 in detail. You can't kind of look at one but ignore 3 and 4. It requires you to look at every one in detail, and you have to find substantial and competent evidence that each of those standards are met, every single one of them. there is a strong presumption favoring your action. So if you, which we're all asking you to do, deny the CUP or deny, recommend denial of the CUP and deny scenic route and design review, the presumption is that you've acted within your authority when you apply your own zoning ordinances. That's why we have them. So look to your zoning. I think Brian Parker's staff report does a really nice job of laying out all of those. Our letter, also the materials by Epicos, which Lisa has done a great job of compiling, like here's your cheat sheet, and here's all this information that you can look at each CUP factor and deny it. Look at those zoning ordinances in detail. And most importantly on the legal framework is that all the conditions of the CUP need to be met, not just some of them. And then finally, does the development comply with our comprehensive plan? The answer is clearly no. And some of the details on the comp plan I think are important to note. The comp plan calls for, and my letter really outlines this, I will try not to repeat myself, but friendly to pedestrians, cyclists, and transit users in the area. Is this that? No. Oh, thank you so much for my exhibits. So this, I think Epicos did prepare this, and this shows how big this development is on this property. It technically does fit and meet some of these standards, but I'm asking, kind of a question is like, is this friendly to our pedestrian cyclist area? No. And a lot of people have talked about this, the really, and I appreciated the Stibnite neighbors' comments, because I don't want those to be lost, but the idea is if you pull left onto Colorado, which a lot of people are going to do, I think Dave maybe mentioned this, they'll look over to 3rd Street, realize it's all congested. This 1st Street and Colorado Street corner is a 90-degree angle. It is terribly dangerous in its current existing, and it will be worse. I point this out in my letter, but the size of this, the parking, the scale, there is still an RV dump. If you look really close here, I don't know if the applicant's going to remove it or not, but they're inviting more traffic and more use, and it's going to impact this whole area. Do you mind switching to the photograph of, I think anyone who lives here knows this, but this is the corner of Colorado Street and 1st Street. There's a very small snowbank. This is probably in the spring, but another public comment was how narrow this is. It's very, very dangerous. There's one more photo, maybe this is an exhibit in our packet. Meredith, do you mind just keep going down? Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, so here's the Colorado, and then I think Dave mentioned this. So this is heading north on 1st Street. Here we have a blind hill. My law office is right on the other side of that. I walk out of it and run out of it most days, and it's very dangerous as it currently exists. Here we've got the skate park, the pump track, the school is over here. It just doesn't make any sense that we would have any kind of application that would send traffic on this area of Colorado Street. And I don't have pictures of Stibnite, but completely agree with the public comment about that. So thank you. And here's a couple additional pictures. I wanted to I don't think there's been a lot of discussion. I realize that your staff is recommending that you table this, but you do have authority to consider design review and scenic route now. Design review standards are set forth in our letter and the Epicos materials. An applicant talked about toned down colors, and I looked at their materials and thought, I see the bright red, this huge, facing like this, I'm not an architect, Epicos is, but it doesn't make sense in our community design standards. It really doesn't. It's huge. And then this is the photograph that I thought was really telling. This is I believe you're on Highway 55 on 3rd Street walking. It's really not compatible with the neighborhood and the way that it looks. And I showed you this one because RV dump is still in there, and that's super troublesome to the group. So I wanted to just specifically talk about a couple things. City staff mentioned driveway access. It's too wide. It does not meet city standards as written. It also really doesn't make sense. If you look closely at their application, there are specific areas that you look at the radius and they're coming out across the street or across the highway into traffic. It also doesn't analyze Colorado Street really at all. Lisa talked about lighting. I think there's been some discussion of a drainage plan. I think that the sewer letter, the Payette Lakes Recreational Water and Sewer District provided a letter that said the applicant is supposed to schedule a meeting. Doesn't appear that that has happened or that we know any information about what those discussions are going on. The one person who spoke tonight who was in favor of the project appeared like they were interested in some contribution to that sewer issue. And then specifically, in these staff conditions of approval, there were certain, number 3 talks about signage. No exterior signage shall be permitted referencing any business other than the service station. And they have that still in their application. So the signage really should not have Maverick and then also the bonfire. There are 2 conditions, number 5 and number 6, which talk about cross-access easement with the property to the south or access onto Stibnite. There's no ability for the applicant to get access onto Stibnite because there's property owned by someone else in between them, and that person has not provided any cross-access easement to the property. So kind of all of those conditions, if you look at them closely, need to be understood to be there is no current cross-access easement. There is no ability to share access with the property owner to the south unless something changed. And then, I also included the Formula Restaurant Code, Meredith. Okay, or maybe it's in here. Formula Restaurant Code section was another. Okay, it was included in yours. I respectfully disagree with city staff commenting that there could be, that this would be, like the service station is exempt. We have a service station, a restaurant, and retail. We seem to be having 3 things in this application. And the restaurant is for sure a Formula Restaurant. The applicant agrees that it is. And so as such, while this is a conditionally allowed use in this zone, you should look at it as not as proposed. They shouldn't be able to have all of those items in one location. So that's constitute a conditional use authorized in the zone. That's CUP standard number 1. Technically, yes, you can have a service station in the CC zone, but the proposal includes a restaurant, a retail, and a service station. And so I actually think an application of 3818 would not allow this. Service stations and supermarkets are not subject to this restriction, provided that these uses are not combined with Formula Restaurants. That's happening here. Don't let that just happen. Number 2 is be harmonious with and in accord with the general objectives of the comp plan. I heard the applicant talking about this, and it didn't seem like the applicant was addressing maintain, safe, clean, health, and attractive, small town feel. All of these words that you hear throughout our comp plan, limiting formula businesses, that's in our comp plan, ensuring appropriately scaled development in McCall's natural mountain town setting. And I've outlined this in my letter, and I don't want to go on too long, but those are not being met here. CUP standard number 3 is be designed, constructed, operated, maintained to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance to the existing likely neighborhood. I really think this Colorado Street area, and recognizing also the neighbors who spoke on the other side of Colorado Street, absolutely, is a mixed use. It includes full-time, part-time residents. It includes small boutique-like businesses and restaurants, service type. The mixed use zone doesn't say anywhere in our code, that all uses are compatible. And this is one that really isn't. This is a very large scale 24-hour gas station. And the Hurlbuts graciously gave their time to me, but I want to address some issues that the Hurlbuts really need to strongly, they live at 300 Colorado Street. It's where they're raising their child. They've had a business there in the past. That was a very small business. the nature of the neighborhood that when they purchased to now, if this were allowed, would change tremendously. The history of the property prior to this, I understand that it was, you know, now kind of a desolate looking site, but prior to it, it was a woodsman restaurant serving breakfast. It had small business or affordable housing in the back. It was also the Woodsman Motel. The Hurlbutts would be dramatically affected if this were allowed. Also, there is a realtor provided an opinion, and I included some research as well about the effective property values in the neighborhood. And there is some really good research out there that you can look to. Number 4.